Today, we have Beth Howard with us. She's a play therapist who has a master's in counseling, and she's going to talk with us about the power of play. Tell us a little bit more about you and about your practice. What is it that you do?
Yes. So I'm a licensed clinical practitioner or a therapist. And with that, that just means that I have my own private office and I've opened that up to majority of ages. I've had everyone up to a 94-year-old woman down to a little girl that's 4 years old. So I do cover all the ages. And I so enjoy working with families, especially I believe a lot of our issues that we struggle with are family system. It's not just a child, or it's usually a whole picture that we want to kind of unravel. And so I spend a lot of time working with families when I do deal in my office with the different variety of trauma, anxiety, depression, and those sorts of issues that a lot of us are facing in today's world. So,
And one of the things you do is play therapy, right? With children.
yeah,
And why
yeah.
is play so important with children who've suffered trauma?
Well, first of all, actually, we all do kind of, you can use play therapy even in adults. Like it is not just for children, although the majority of us use it for children, because it's a way of saying what you feel without having to do it and using language or word. The play is the language, and the toys are the way they're communicating what they feel and how they feel. And it is something that I think many people don't understand that 80% of children um, are able to be successful using play therapy. Like its empirical study review actually states that it is super helpful for children to use this modem to be able to get their emotions and their trauma processed in a healthy way.
Yeah, so I hear you saying really it kind of gets at it in a more direct path. That language, they might not have the words for those emotions that they're feeling. So it comes out when you're playing together.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is that children get asked a lot by adults, what do you feel? They don't know what they feel and they can't put it into words. They just know they have a variety of outbursts possibly, or they get angry and they don't understand why. But if you hand them toys and just ask for a story, and they are able to begin to tell a story, which is their ability to say, this is what I'm experiencing. And it's really a natural thing that I believe we've been created to do without even realizing it, that this is why they can use play therapy so successfully, because it is a way for them to process. And it's just an interesting experience to watch a child tell you a story that just comes alive, and it makes complete sense that that is how they're feeling through the trauma they've experienced or the anxiety or depression that they're experiencing.
When we were talking before we hit record, you mentioned another story of a little girl that was in foster care. Can you tell us a little bit more about that one too?
Absolutely. So I love working with foster care children because they have a lot of trauma, and I do enjoy being that support system. And I had a 4 year old little girl who came in, which is almost at the edge of therapy, being able to begin to really good therapy. She had been taken away from her mother due to her mother drinking and not being able to take care of her. And she actually had a situation where she was left alone and all by herself because the mother was blackout, drunk. So then when she came to me, I just asked her, I said, would you do a story for me? And gave her the toys and allowed that to happen. And she spent so much meticulous time. She had put up a house and she put all the pieces of the house together so it was very orderly. Then she took and she put a fence around the house, and then she put some animals in that fence, and it was, she was enjoying it. You could see she was very happy to do it. And then as we got closer to the end of the time, I said to her, we have about 3 minutes left. And so she continued to finish her story, and she had a mother and a baby and all of that in the home. And I said, okay, we have about a minute left before we're done. And she took one of the animals that was in the fenced in area and just began to completely destroy the whole picture. And it was so obvious that internally she was trying to keep everything together and the house and the home. But there was this element which she took as it was a little pig, I can remember so clearly, and it just destroyed everything. So here's this little 4-year old able to tell you without using any words, I am distraught and I don't know how to keep the perfect picture together. And it's bigger than I am, but it's destructive. And so that was really a powerful play therapy for me with that little girl.
Wow. That's amazing what comes out, but and you're not giving any real prompts, you're not asking them to go at their history. They're just it's just innately coming out of their little beings.
And I will say, one thing I think I do carry that has been helpful for this to be successful is you have to be a safe place for a child to do it for you. Like, children are incredibly intuitive and they sense if you're trying to control, manipulate, or you produce something from them. It needs to be a safe environment that you're not telling, you're not directing. Once you create that safe environment to where they can really feel free to play, then you can begin to say things like, I will say, can I be in your story? If I was in your story, who would I be? Can I be in your story? And they will pick, I've had them pick angels, which makes me very happy, like I'm an angel to them, or they will put you in their story. But you have to build that relationship first and foremost before you do any kind of directive play, because a child would be very sensitive to you telling them what they should or should not do, or if it just needs to be a safe place for them to put whatever they want with no direction.
Yeah, and a big part of what I just heard you say is they're in control when they're in your office. Yeah, is that true?
Absolutely. So, because children, especially with trauma, have not had any control of the scenario, they are looking for a place where they can process without being told how or what or answer to an adult. They just want to be able to process freely without anybody telling them what's right or wrong. And that's really important. And even in therapy in general, right? We want to have that freedom to process without someone telling us we're not right to feel a certain way. But we just need to see ourselves process our emotions, and kids are the same.
Yeah, and I even heard you say you really don't ask any of those questions until later on. You let them play for quite a while before you interject because even your asking a question is really a bit of control in this scenario.
And I will always tell the children, I'm not going to touch your story when we're done. Like, I don't ever pick it up and put it away in front of them because it's a respect issue. That this is your story and it is very valuable. And so we don't just pick up the toys and put it away like it's like I just leave it until they're gone. And then I always pick it up and put it away so that they can know that that's a very sacred thing they just did with me.
That's beautiful. And I can see so many different applications for our families, even, not grilling a kid when they get home from school, right? Kind of organically letting them be in control of when they talk about their day and how they talk about their day. I mean, just so many different
So many.
applications.
Right. And I just think children a lot in trauma get asked a lot of questions,
Mm.
whether that be divorce or anything that they've been through. And kids don't like that. They really want the freedom to organically tell you once you build trust.
Okay. So if parents were feeling resistant towards play therapy, what would you tell them?
I would say make the space for the child to just be who they want to be. So many times adults think they have to control. And I think most kids, given the space, will naturally play out what they're feeling. So most children will invite you into it. If they don't want to invite you into it, that needs to be sacred for that child. So many times I think I have parents come and they try to do this at home with their kids, but once again, because of their own insecurities, they begin to start to tell the child what they maybe should do or try to control it because of their own insecurity versus just allowing this non-direct play and let that child work it through and let them invite you into it.
Yeah, and you said it's non-direct, and I keep hearing it, it's really child-directed, right? They're in charge is the big idea, isn't it?
I think that's true. Once you have a good base of why you are connected, that's when the parent is has the trust that they can begin to say, let's what will we do if the doll is doing X? Like you can then now direct the play and ask the child the question, or what would happen if this car went over here? How would that impact the story? You can begin to engage in the play with the child, but probably the first 5 or 6 sessions, really, I try to just allow that bond to begin so they can see that they are the ones in charge. And so I think that's what I would say is you can begin to direct some play out of interest once there's more of a connection and a trust built.
Yeah, and I hear you describing a pretty sensory rich environment that you create as well. So, if a parent is, they're into it. This sounds great. They're really like, yeah, I like this idea. What are some kinds of things that they could go purchase, could go do to create that sensory rich environment that would just be that safe space for the kiddo to explore?
Well, first of all, the sand therapy is wonderful because I can't tell you how many times kids come in my office and just want to play with their hands in the sand just to calm them down, like after school. So sand is a great, or you can use rice. Also, when you're working with musical instruments, that is a wonderful environment for the children. Or, like I said, a dollhouse is very much where they can act out what's happening in the home. I will often tell what's happening in the home through a dollhouse. So you have a lot of different ways that you can create ways for kids to show their emotions and get out some of their feelings. One thing is called aggressive play therapy, and that actually means you get bubble wrap or things that the kids can stomp on, hit, because a lot of our trauma is stored in our bodies, and so we need to be able to get it out. So sometimes, if you have a struggling child that doesn't know how to calm himself, aggressive play therapy would be something that they could engage in at first to get them to calm down. So um, those kind of sensory things would be great for them.
Yeah, I can see so many times with kiddos who've been in foster care, just so many practical applications to that. And right, never was a safe place to share it, or maybe even, do pre verbal things kind of come out, or right? Because many of our kids, when they come into care, they don't have a lot of words. They've been so neglected.
Right.
You can have 4 and 5 year olds that come in with very few words, but would play even get tap at some of that stuff as well?
Well, yeah, I think with play, you will hear them tell you the story. So they will start to use words like safe, like I didn't, that person in the play didn't feel safe. Like one little girl just did it. And once again, it was a divorce. Dad wasn't really involved. And she must have said the word safe 20 times. Like, obviously, and she was probably 6. Her go to response was she didn't feel safe. So as she was telling the story, that word safe came up. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a way that I also have them explain through words, just by them telling what what the story, and they don't think that you are correlating it to how they feel. So it feels so much safer to them to tell you what they feel because it's the story, it's not how they're trying to put it into words.
Yeah. Are there other things you wish foster and adoptive families knew, either about play or about play therapy? Just different things you can do to encourage them?
I think just the most important thing is to allow the child to be directing the play and not trying to create what you think the child is saying. Because sometimes parents will come to me after they're at home with the child and trying to do their own play therapy. They will try to put it into what they feel like fits their narrative because and that's detrimental to the child because the child never has had a narrative because everybody around them is telling them what the narrative should be. So we really want to give that child a safe place to have their own narrative, even if it doesn't match what the parent wants that narrative to be. So I just would really encourage that the whole purpose is to let the child process the trauma, the anxiety, the depression in their way without the parent. Unless they tell the parent, let the child lead.
Wow. That was really powerful, that idea that and I almost could I was envisioning kind of the whole room is listening to the child, if you will. Everything in that room is just directed towards whatever it is that comes up for them, and, to be careful to not transpose any thoughts, any of that, just everything is gonna be kinda what bubbles up out of them and to just be I heard maybe respectful and honoring.
Absolutely. Because parents have, and I have seen that a lot, because they're trying to protect the story for themselves, right? Whether there be a father or a mother that hasn't done what they're supposed to, they want the child to feel a certain way. And I've had to often, watch that where the parent wants or they maybe see the foster child wanting to protect the mother and they have to have that freedom to do that while they develop through the trauma, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You can't put your view on that child because that child is processing it at his rate or her rate, what they want to feel. And it's important that they can be validated at that place. And then as
Yeah.
they grow and move, they can change that narrative, but no one should tell them their narrative is wrong.
Yeah, because it's where they're at developmentally, cognitively, especially with foster and adoptive families. So many times you're talking about something that happened before they even came into your home. So you really don't have a clue.
Right. So just letting them, I think that's the most important thing of play therapy is letting them be in charge of what their emotions are and giving them that free space to process it, which it may develop over time. Like I said, 5 or 6 sessions until you really build that place of trust.
And so we talked a lot about younger kiddos, kind of sand and but I'm curious, my gut tells me you said you could do it at any age. I'm guessing, if we had teenagers, which a lot of our families do, same kinds of things apply, don't they?
Well, I will just tell you, they did that for us. As therapists, we got to do our own story, and I was shocked how freeing it was to create a story. And what you don't realize is that you will create a story that is coming from an internal part of you that's processing struggles and things. So you want to create places where they can have really beautiful flowers or what, like you want to have both. Like when I notice with little kids, they use always a sweet little innocent animal to be them, and there's always like a tiger or a dinosaur or something scary that's attacking that sweet little thing. So as if you're going to do an older person, a teenage kid, it can still be through different toys, but you want to create an ability to write a story. What would you need to help them write a story? Would it be an animal? Would it be people? You can do anything, but they're just telling a story. And that story is them processing. I had a junior high girl once whose was a divorce situation, and the dad had called the police on the mom. And she was in, and that probably happened when she was 8, but she was now in junior high. She did a story for me, and sure enough, out came the police car, out come the house, and all the destruction that came with that for her. And so she acted it out. So she was, in junior high, but she still hadn't processed that fully, which was the police coming to the house because the dad had called on the mother. So I'm just saying, yeah, there is no age limit. In fact, it's very freeing because I think all of us with inside ourselves are a child that is still processing different feelings.
Okay, I know personally that you absolutely love foster and adoptive parents and what it is that they're doing. If you could just give them just a bit of encouragement, what would you want to say to them?
Well, first of all, I want to just thank them. I am so honored to even be a part of this process because people that have opened up their homes to those who are struggling, you have my respect. And I want to help in any way possible because I know the challenge is great. And when you take on by your own desire to love these kids that have nobody that will take them into their home, I am just so proud to be a part of this process. I really do also want to encourage you that you matter and to take good care of yourself because often, yes, foster parents, we put everybody else in front of us. And I just want to say, um, support system and a massage, whatever you need, you matter, and to take really good care of yourself because as you take good care of yourself, you'll be even a better caregiver for those in foster and those children that are dealing with so much.
There it is. You heard it today. Your therapist said, get a massage, do what you need to do. It was from a therapist. We can say that. And I just love that you encourage them. Really, what I heard was put your oxygen mask on first, and then you're going to have it available for the kiddos in your care.
Absolutely. And thank you for all you do. I do appreciate all that they do to love those kids that are in such difficult situations.
Yay. Well, thank you for all that you do. I know that you support many families. I know that you're a therapist to many, and we're just so grateful for your time with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was an awesome experience.